I'm starting to round the home stretch on finishing this project. I have done a couple things off camera that I'd like to show you real quick. The first thing is the ordering of these slides, which I'll show you in a minute. I needed the exact dimensions to get this to the right width, and also to figure out the platform that's going to go underneath, and I'm going to start working on that today. I also had to redo the feet. Like an idiot, when I calculated how long these feet were on the table, I didn't account for when it was extended, only when it was closed. So I needed to remake the feet, and I needed to make them about 6 inches longer than they were. I'm afraid that when the table pulls apart, it's going to tip on the sides. And again, I just screwed up. It happens to all of us. I also made the leaf in the middle. It's about 20 inches. So I'm going to get about 68 inches total when the table is open. But I'd really like to show you these slides. They're pretty cool. I got these slides from a company called Osborne Wood Products, and these are Equalizer Slides. There's 2 of them. There'll be a pair, obviously. The whole idea is that when the table's put together and you pull on one side, since it's a pedestal, both sides will open at once, which I think is pretty cool. There's going to be a piece of ash underneath here which connects to the post, and then obviously another one on the other side. These will get attached to the underside of the table. My biggest concern with any of this is that since I do have the Equalizer Slides on here, and once people like my wife, I shouldn't say that, but once people understand that you can pull this and open it up on both sides, is that they're going to grab the rail underneath and pull this. So I need to make sure that this rail is firmly secured to the table, but I also have to make sure that it allows for expansion and contraction at the top. So that's going to be a little bit of a design issue for me, but I've got it worked out, and I think I'm going to be good with it. So let me show you how I lay out for these things, and I'll start the support system. Got a slide temporarily positioned on the bottom of the table here. I've got the line where the inside of this is the inside of the rail, not the outside of the rail. The inside of the rail will be on this. And I just want to kind of eyeball. I want to get as far to the outside of this as possible without interfering with the rail. This will give me the most support going this way. I think that's still a little bit too close. So bring in a little bit more. A bit of quick measurement. A little bit over 8 inches. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. Let's say 8 inches. That'll bring it all the way to the outside here. I'm still going to have about 1.5 inches between this and the rail. But I'm pretty good with that. So the table itself is 48 inches. Again, take a quick measurement again. 48 inches. So 48 minus 16 is 32 inches. So I need to make the bottom support 32 inches. Now what I'm going to do, we've got a piece of 8-quarter ash here. I've actually thickness planed some of this a while ago when I first got it. I decided to use ash because it's very dense, heavy wood, but it's also very stiff. It doesn't give a lot, which I think is perfect for the support of the system. This will be mounted to the post, and again, this is the underside, so the post will be here, and these are going to be mounted outside here. Now my rail, I was able to get 3 3/4 inches, which was my plan. So if I look at this right here, I want to make sure this is completely covered by the rail. I'm at 4 inches right now, how this sits. I should mention too that when I bought these, I was told that they were going to be 2 3/8. But I found out they're not. They're actually 2.5, and that's because since it's designed to sit on a pedestal, all the weight's going to be on the outside, and they're slightly cantilevered to allow for that. It's kind of hard to see, but they come up just a little bit, and so I need to make this piece 1 1/4 inches thick instead of the 1.5 inches, which it's at now. The extra 1/4 inch isn't really going to make that much difference in this, I believe. But this needs to be 32 inches long. Right now it's 40 by 12 and 3/8. Like I said, that'll go on top of there. I'm going to cut this down to the exact size, so that gives me positioning on here. Put it right at the end. So I'm going to thickness plane this, and then we'll lay out the rest of it. So I've taken 2 sides of the table apart. And again, when I made these bent rails, that they came out a little bit. So I just got a pipe clamp in here temporarily to pinch the sides together a little bit. What I'm going to be using is these flathead screws. They're actually pocket hole screws. I'm not going to use them as pocket hole in the pocket hole jig. The reason I'm using, there's a nice flat spot on here. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking a Forstner bit. I'm going to drill down into here. So these come all the way down to about right here, and I'll be able to catch about 3/4 of an inch of the wood here. The rest will go down into here. I'm going to glue it at certain spots. And I'll be backing this up later with some glue blocks, but this is just to keep them in place. I'm just going to mark out where these are going to go. I need to put one at the end here. And then pretty much every other board. Try to space them as evenly as possible. Now let's do the same to the other side, and then I'll go over to the drill press and drill these out. All right, well, I've got the bits set up in my drill press. I've got the speed set appropriately for the Forstner bit side. I've got a test scrap of wood that I'll put up here, and the stop set to go down quite a bit here. I just want to make a test cut to make sure everything goes okay with this. Now, this did require a little bit more setup. I need to make sure my fence was proper distance away. I've also had to set up a roller stand. This piece is so large and it's curved. I need to make sure I have support on both ends, both on the table and on the end of it, so it's not wobbling around all over the place. But that's ready to go. I'm ready to start drilling these holes out again. Flat against here, square up against here. And just go slow and easy. And that's it. Because of the depth of this hole and the hardness of the wood, between each hole I want to let the blade sit for a minute, or the bit sit for a minute to cool off. It's very hot right now, I would imagine. Yeah, I'll make sure that the flutes are also clean on the drill bit before I start going again. All right, well, I've got the first rail secured to one of the halves. Just got 3 screws in here temporarily holding it, one on each end and one in the middle here. I just wanted to make sure that it's going to sit that way. It came out very well. I want to check it for squareness also. And it's pretty much dead on. It's very flat to the tabletop, so this came out very well. I just need to do the other end, other side. What I also need to do is I need to cut off this excess. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this mark it exactly where it needs to go, put the other side up to it, and again, make sure that these are circular all the way around, like a nice tight joint when I finally do put it together. So just now that I've got both rails attached to each side, what I want to do is I want to mark where I need to cut off this excess on all 4 sides. So what I'll do is I'll mark underneath. I'll take my square, put it up against the top of the rail, make sure it's nice and flat, bring it to the edge of the table. Do that on both sides. And then I just need to extend the line across. Just need to do that all four. Well, now I've got these marked out. I'm going to take my it's kind of a Japanese razor saw. There's two types of blades on here. There's a coarse grain and there's or coarse teeth and fine teeth. The fine teeth are for cross cutting. These are for ripping. I'm going to obviously use these. I'm going to cut down this. I'm more concerned about staying to the outside. I'm absolutely concerned about staying to the outside of the pencil line I just marked, but also make sure that I don't, under any circumstances, cross this line. Inside, if there's a little bit of an inside bevel, it's not too big of a deal. But again, I just want to take it nice and easy. Like I said, I want to cut proud of that line. Again, I've stayed proud of that line. I'll clean this up with the block plane to get it nice and all the way to the edge there. I said I get close to the line, put the sides back together, see how close I am, and then just continue to work that until I get a perfect joint all the way around. Alright, well, I'm just outside of that line right now. I'll do the other three, and then we'll put the table back together and see how far off I am on that. It looks pretty good. Well, I've mounted the rails to the top of the table, actually to the bottom of the top of the table, and I just put a little bit of glue on the front here and just a drop on each corner. I wanted to make sure that the top can expand and contract. Now I also, when I made these holes, I also should say I elongated them a little bit just by taking a drill bit and going like this. And that'll allow the top to expand and contract a little bit also. I've got both pieces on a piece of plywood here. The piece of plywood is relatively flat. And I put the two halves together. I got a very nice seam. The next thing I want to do is I want to attach the top to the support system before I do anything. What I've got to do is I've got to make this seam perfectly flat. There's a little bit of a ridge here. I also need to add pins in here so when you put the table together it aligns. But I don't want to do that before I attach the underpinnings to the bottom. And before I do that, I've got to glue up the pedestal and the legs and get the top or the support bracket ready to sit on top of that. So the glue up of the pedestal and the legs, this is the last gut check or measurement check before I start to create the support system underneath the table. There's going to be a hole drilled here which will go on top of the pedestal. I'll attach this to the top of the pedestal, and these will go on top of this. The table, which is obviously upside down right now, will sit on top of these. So everything looks good and I'm ready to start that process. Well, this is a pretty simple process. Probably the simplest thing I'm doing is I'm just going to drill a hole in the middle of this under support. I've got the largest Forstner bit I have, which is the same size as the tenon that's on the pedestal. I'm just going to drill through. Again, I've marked my spot. I've got the bit set to its slowest speed, and I've checked to make sure that this is perpendicular all the way around, and I'm ready to go. After fiddling around with the tenon a little bit, I've got a very good fit for the top. It's okay that this is a little loose on here. This is actually held down by screws. I just want to make sure that I'm flat all the way around here, and it is. So I'm ready to bolt this to the top of the pedestal. Now I've got the pedestal fitted to the support system. I want to pop this in here. I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to trace around where the base will be. Well, the pedestal is going to be mounted to the support system using hanger bolts. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to mark out the location of those after I've made the circle around it. Figured out where the pedestal is going to be. I've got the center point already marked. Now I've got those marked out. The hanger bolts need to be in at least about a ½ inch from the end. So I'm going to go in 1 inch. And that marks the location of the hanger bolts. I'm going to go back to the drill press and put these holes through here first. We've got the base support temporarily placed on top of the pedestal. I want to make a couple marks. The first one is I've marked a line or witness mark on top of the tenon. What that represents is the legs being splayed this way. I don't want, when the table expands, to have a leg going right at the person sitting in the middle of the table. I actually want to have them going this way. The supports are going this way and the table will split this way. Also, I've made a witness mark on the support itself so that when I put this back together, I'll be able to put it in the right spot and everything will match up. So all I want to do now is just drill some holes for the hanger bolts through here. Got a piece of tape mark. That's the actual overall depth of the or length of the hanger bolt. I want to make sure when I drill this in, I'm going to use this as a template, that I go deep enough for that will be below the surface of this piece of ash. Alright, I'm going to put one of the bolts in here just to secure this down. Like I said, I'm going to put a bolt in here just to secure it down at the top while I do the rest of the holes. Well, I've got the support system on the pedestal. I know a lot of people are probably wondering why I put this on first before the legs, and the answer is real simple. Again, I've said 100 times, this is a very heavy piece of wood. So I don't want to try to mount this a certain way. What I want to do is set it on the floor like this and then mount the legs like this. This gives me a nice flat surface. I also should mention that my floor is, while it's flat, it is not level, so it's going to be very hard for me to judge when I get the legs in here exactly how level they are. But I know about where it's going to be, and I'm pretty sure that I'll get it to come out right. I can always fine-tune the bottom of the feet a little bit once they've been glued on. I'm going to be using epoxy to glue the legs up, and I've got some extra time epoxy. It gives me about a 30-minute open time. The reason I'm using epoxy, it's pretty slippery. It'll help me get the feet seated in the pedestal nice. and also it's gap filling, so if there's any inconsistencies at all, it'll help fill those gaps. I'm going to start this. I'm going to be putting it just on the dovetail tens, not on the legs themselves. Make sure I get a good coat on there. Don't want too much excess in there because I don't want squeeze out on this. Of course, it's the last one I grab. Make sure those are firmly seated. Well, I've got the legs glued onto the pedestal. I'm ready to start attaching the support system to the top itself.